some sort of memory that's placed in me that like if I don't know, and like just the way you feel when you're doing it, I just feel like it's like a necessary tool for me to get a really good stretch in.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's more physiological though too, right?
That could be too, yeah, because you kill your inflammation and like you're probably guarding less because you're more likely to you're more accepting to pain, I guess.
Yeah,
Nice TV setup.
Science.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I couldn't get the TVO to work, but so what's up? Live again. Did you know that I was telling you to start the podcast?
I think I did.
I was trying to sneak it in there.
R stands for record. Please press R. Okay.
So, second guest of the podcast, Monsieur Tyler Coleman.
Here I am.
He's being candid here. He's a little nervous. We're popping his podcast cherry.
Popping the podcast cherry.
Welcome, Tyler.
Blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere.
That seems to be the theme for you lately, right?
Yeah, I mean 2-0.
Yep. Yeah, I just got to keep that going.
So, yeah, just give a little intro. Tell us about you.
Yeah, so I met the two of these fine young gentlemen at the gym that we all go to, Evolve MMA and Fitness. A little shout out there.
Yeah. Best gym in St. Catharines, Niagara region.
Oh, hands down.
Good facility. Great
Yeah.
facility.
Definitely the best facility I think I've ever seen for MMA gyms.
Yeah, I don't know.
Not that I have a plethora of...
Not that I've experienced like a vast majority, but for the ones that I have been to, I mean, by size and...
Yeah, the facility itself is so nice.
And the team itself, I think that's really kind of what separates it apart from the other gyms. I mean, just everybody in there has such a family.
Mm-hmm.
It's a one of the biggest things I really found surprising was when I moved here and I started to go to Evolve MMA was the community that the gym had. And I think it's a theme that I keep going back to, community, because you know you can do so much by yourself to a point, and you stop there, you know, by yourself. But if you're holding hands with others, and if you have a synergistic energy with other individuals, you're gonna go way further than you would have ever thought, right? And I think that's what's so important about community, and I think that's something that everyone should try to cultivate within their own world. So it can be community between entrepreneurs, it could be community between athletes, it could be community, but a community is so important because that's like a family away from family too, right?
No,
so yeah, that's
absolutely.
so nice about Evolve that they
Absolutely.
have a great community.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty common throughout martial arts in general. Like that's the one thing. It's always funny when you say to people who, you know, you tell them you do jiu-jitsu or whatever, you're talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, I wish I could get into that." You're like, "Do it." Like, "Oh man, I'd suck." Like, yeah,
We
I
all
know
suck.
that's
We
the
all
point
suck.
of training. That's why you
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But people don't understand that like people really love new people there. Like it's not like I get how you feel burdensome when you start. You're new and you don't really know what you're doing. You're clunky. You're in people's way.
I feel like that. I feel
Yeah.
like that.
I still feel like that too.
feel
I
like
still
that.
feel like that too, for sure.
People love it
all the
though.
time.
People appreciate it because they know what it was like when they were there. The first 3 months where you do nothing but just battle claustrophobia, and then the next 9 months where you do nothing but tap, and then you know maybe you get top position once and you
Yeah.
fucking stoked.
That
for a
sounds
week.
like that sounds
exactly,
a lot
no, for
lot
sure.
like my training.
But I've never been to an environment, not just at Evolve. Even when I was in Germany, the MMA gym I was at, just I've never been in a community where people are so willing to help people who suck.
Yep. Yeah, no,
Because you really suck when you start martial arts. Like,
I think it's a big eye opener for a lot of people, especially for a lot of people that have never done any martial arts. I mean, and when I say any, I mean any, because a little bit of anything can go a long way. Like you get somebody that's coming to Evolve. We don't have Taekwondo per se, but it's just somebody that's coming to Evolve with a Taekwondo background, whether it's 3 months or 2 years, and say they come into. They go to the cardio class, and then they do good in the cardio class, and then they go to the Muay Thai class. Well, they still transfer that Taekwondo experience to Muay Thai. Whereas if you get the average person to walking off the street, it's
Yeah.
not the same.
If you're a hockey player, it's not necessarily gonna.
No, and I mean,
Sure.
I know that's how I came into the sport. I mean, I came into mixed martial arts from a hockey background, and I mean, this physical aspect, I mean, the athletic aspect is a lot
Yeah.
similar.
Right.
Everything else is completely
The
different.
martial arts mentality itself.
Yeah. With the MMA being my first martial art, it was a very big eye opener, and it made the beginning seem a lot longer, because taking that first step to getting that first fight,
Yeah.
to do it the proper way, which I'm not going to say 100% of the time from everybody's perspective that I did, but I mean that's a long process.
Yeah. How long was it from when you started to when you had your?
From my
First
first martial arts
It's like
class
9 months, right?
at Evolve. I spent I got into Evolve in September 2015, 2016, September 2016. And my first fight was August 2017. And before that, I had 5 months of Muay Thai experience.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So really, we're talking a total of 14 months.
14 months. That's an intense commitment.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
And I still think that I probably rushed it to a point. Looking back on it now, like to get to the point that I'm at now, I think I did have to do that, and I'm glad that I did. But looking at it on a perspective for not just myself, but if anybody who was looking at say you had a hockey background, you came into MMA, I would say it would take you at least 2 years. You're looking at 2 years.
That
at
seems
least.
to be the consensus, especially when you listen to people who really know what they're talking about, like Joe Rogan. Like that's what he says. It's like 2 years minimum.
Yeah,
But-
and that's 2 years to get to like an amateur level. Like when you're looking at guys like CM Punk, you're looking to come from like the fake
High school wrestling.
like wrestling, but like no martial arts experience, and
I think he was a high school wrestler a little bit. but-
exactly, and then being able to fight in the UFC in I think it was
Yeah, it's
less
dope.
than a year is. I mean, come on.
It's
Yeah.
comical.
Wow.
But you're also like you put a lot of focus into it. Like you showed me your schedule last night. Like
Yeah.
you're there, and like you ran a triathlon the week after your
Yeah,
fight.
yeah.
I mean,
I
yeah.
think
Tell us more about your background. Like, what were you doing before all these martial arts?
before martial arts, okay. So I played junior hockey for my hometown Strathroy for 3 seasons, and then I played another 2 seasons in Exeter. Sorry. So a total, and then another year in Lucan. So a total of 6 years of junior hockey.
Oh, damn.
My last year of junior hockey, I kind of started thinking, what's next? What am I going to do next? Like, where am I going to be able to take this athletic ability that I want to keep going? I don't just want to sit on my butt, drink beer, hang out with my buddies, and be satisfied with that. So I just started training, and I was like, where can I go to train? So I went to this local, small Muay Thai gym in my hometown of
Okay.
Strathroy.
Nice.
And then I started training there for a little bit. And then we moved to St. Catharines in August that year.
Okay.
I started at Evolve in September. And then once I started at Evolve, I started with Muay Thai. And then I really just fell in love with running. And I started doing like long distance running. And I just kept training, and then after that, it was the spring, and I was just kind of thinking like, what's a new goal? I need a new goal, and I looked on Facebook actually, and my Aunt Wendy shared a picture of a triathlon that she had done, and I was like, wow, I should do that. And then I just started training for it. Like I just started going for long bike rides. I brought my dad's old speed bike up from Strathroy to St. Catharines, and I just started riding my bike and running long distances. And I should have been swimming in the pool a lot more, and I found that out in my first triathlon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just put that commitment in. I just decided that if you want something, you got to work hard for it. Nobody else is going to put the work in for these certain things.
Yeah.
For MMA and triathlons, nobody else is there beside you. I mean, yes, your buddy could be running beside you. You could have trained with him.
Yeah.
But it's you. It's yourself.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you get in
Yeah.
there by yourself, right?
Yeah, it's what they always, every martial artists always say. It's like you versus you.
Yeah. Oh,
So
it's
that's
100.
always they say, right?
It's like it's so mental. Everything about it is so mental. It's mental toughness.
Definitely. But one of the so how did you switch from going to like cardio based like triathlons to like MMA or like Muay Thai, like or like you kind of started both, right?
Yeah. Like how did I go back and forth?
Yeah, like what kind of made you go back and forth, or like is it just kind of experimentation? Like
kind of just experimentation.
Yeah.
And I went off myself too.
Okay.
I went off myself. Like I would go to the gym and say we were doing an hour of Muay Thai, and that was going to be my workout that night. But at work that day, I mean, maybe I was working under a sink all day. I didn't get that much done. My physical.
Yeah.
So I went to Muay Thai and I learned a lot of technique, but I didn't put the work in. Then I'd come home and I'd be like, well, yeah, I'm still kind of jittery. Like I'm ready to go. I'm going to go for a run. And then I'd be like, well, I'm going to run 5K. And then like I'd run 5K and then I was like, I can run that lap again. So I'd do a 10K run that night. And like, it was just like, I can do this. Like you can do this. And then you just keep going. And then it's like, just keep going.
So my biggest question is, where are you finding all this courage and this confidence and this, and like, I can keep doing this, I can continue? Because that's the biggest thing people face is when they're in your situation, they're going to say, I can't do this. That's their first. It's just what's like, what do you believe in so much that like that makes you say I can do it? Because we already established that like everything is mental.
Yeah.
And you obviously have some sort of like great mental capacity established. But what do you believe in?
You seem to not.
What do you believe in? Because that's so important. That's why I can see you keep winning instead of like, you're right. It's just so like what is it like? That's what I'm really curious about. It's very fascinating to me.
Trying to like narrow it down to one thing. I'm not quite sure I would be hitting it on the head, but like if you tell me that you can't do something, I think unless you try, you don't like, oh, you can't swim 750 meters without training in the pool. It's like, wow, you're right. That's a long ways, but like, I think I could do it. And it's like, wow, I don't know, man. That's pretty crazy. It's like, well, is it crazy? Like, let's find out. Let's go and do it.
Has that always been your disposition towards like saying fuck it and see what happens?
Yeah,
kind of like
honestly that's you nailed it. Like I remember playing hockey one time. We're playing against LaSalle, another junior B team. Some guy 6'7". He looks at me off the face-off. He's like, "Do you want to fight?" And I'm like looking at him and I'm like, "We're down 2-1. Like my coach probably wouldn't be mad if I fought this guy right now." I'm like, but then the common sense clicks in. He's 6'7". Like, what are you thinking? No, we're not going to fight. Well, then he goes out and he like cross-checks one of my teammates. Something like switched, like flicked, and like I didn't even think. I just like dropped my gloves, pushed him, and he turned to me, dropped my gloves. Well, we fought, and like I didn't get beat up, but like I just said fuck it.
So you
like,
had that switch, eh?
Yeah, it's just like you can't do this triathlon. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm not going to succeed.
Right.
But if I do succeed, then like the feeling inside is greater than anything else. And like consistently being able to find that new goal and get to that feeling.
So would you say you train to win or you train for enjoyment? Like that's because I don't know, like because it seems like you kind of do both.
I love to win though. I'm the most competitive guy when it comes down to it, and I think that's kind of what drives me, that extra, because I'm not okay with not succeeding. Like that eats me up inside. Like second place. And I think like I did get second place. I got second place a lot growing up. A lot of things. I didn't win a lot of things. And I think like that made me kind of who I am. Like that kind of pushed me to have this attitude.
That's good.
Second place you shouldn't be satisfied with that. You should never be satisfied with that. You should never be satisfied with first place. Because if you're first place, then that second place person has a goal to beat of whatever you just accomplished, whether it's a time or score or something, and somebody else beats that. Well, then where are you? If you consistently keep your goal at the same level and don't. Maybe I'm not nailing it on the head.
You know who Wale is?
No.
The rapper? You know who he is?
Oh, okay, maybe one song.
He's got one of my favorite lines ever. Success is like a never-ending battle with whoever at the top, and if that's you who you're trying to hit.
That's pretty good.
That's it. That always makes me think of that when people talk about that.
Yeah.
It's like the background on my computer is Miyamoto Musashi's quote, today is the victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. And that's like, I love that.
I love that too.
You stop worrying about external judgment, I guess, lack of a better word. Like you said, maybe you had come in second before, but it's not really about that.
No,
it's about just, can I push it? Can I do better next time?
Yeah, and it's just,
even if you win, like you said, all right, how do I beat that?
And like when I said I'm competitive, it really comes back to that. It's like that competitive edge to be better, like to have that, to know in the back of your head that you're better. Like today, your better was better than their better, and then consistently work and build off that. But
yeah.
I don't know if maybe I'm not.
I also think like one of the things that I'm kind of like also noticing only recently, just because like I'm just kind of thinking about what makes you so successful, right? Or like how you've been doing well and like what gives you all this like confidence, and it's definitely, I feel like you have that personality for like competitiveness and that. But I also think there's something like we're overlooking, and it's like your support environment, like
absolutely,
like your family and your close ones. And like I think I'm really noticing this because recently I watched The Matrix, and it's just, and it's, because Neo doesn't believe in himself at all. He tells people he's not the one, but when Trinity shows him love and affection, everything changes. That's when I'm like, maybe it's because you have such a close environment of like, you're recently just getting married too, or like and so and you've been with like whoever your significant other for, I guess, a long period of time. So that's why I'm also like, maybe he has that like Trinity factor too, like
absolutely,
and so that's why I'm like, maybe that's also like a huge thing that's riding on him, right? Like that gives him like an extra edge, and like that gives you the extra confidence and even more ability to believe in yourself even further than you thought alone. And that's like going back to the first thing I said, actually, which is community. But like this, and I think this is like your close community though, like very personal community that you have like a great setup. Like, I'm sure like it seems like you're like good with your like family on like, who you live far from. I'm pretty sure, I don't even know how far Exeter is, sorry. Where that is.
It's near London.
Yeah.
It's near London, okay.
Yeah, it's about a half an hour south of London. It's 2 hours away from here.
Okay.
And yeah, that's where my mom and dad are. But we do keep a close relationship, and I think I do have a very good community, like from a small aspect and a big aspect.
Yeah.
I mean, from my friends that I may not talk to day to day, I could bump into them 2 months from now and we could pick up a conversation like
nice,
no problem. And they're the ones that are telling me, that's awesome what you're doing. It's awesome. They're sending me messages and little things like that. But when it comes down to small, like Tori, my fiance, who I'm getting married to in June, like without the support of her, I wouldn't be where I am today or who I am today for sure. She changes me for the better every single day. And like she instills the confidence in me to do the things that I want to do.
Okay, yeah, that's
like I'll look at her and be like, I want to go for a run. Go for a run. Like, oh well, this and this, do it after. Go for a run. If that's what you want to do, go and do it. And she's so supportive.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like, and that it is huge. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just like from everyday life, like just everything about life itself. Like having that support right there is just so key.
Over time, it's incalculable how much of an effect that has in terms of like a ripple effect. Because think of how much time people spend every day trying to overcome their own voice of doubt when, even something simple like going for a run, and they think, oh, fuck it, I gotta do laundry or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And that's hard enough for some people. But then if you were to verbalize that and you have somebody who lives with you and you say, I'm gonna go for a run, and then they also say, no, you have shit to do, now you've got twice that bearing down. So imagine how much of an effect that has of somebody propelling you forward every time that situation arises where you say, this is what I think I should do, but there's a little bit of resistance. I don't know if it's the right decision, and somebody else is always there saying, no, that's the right one. Just do it.
And
kind of lifts that burden of
yeah, and the same aspect,
doubt.
it is really good because it does keep you grounded too. Because there is the time where it's like, I want to go for a run, but I got to do this. But that thing is really important, and you really you do need to do that, and you do need to get that done.
Mhm.
She's the person that'll be like, she'll tell me that, she'll lay it out, and she'll tell me, and she's awesome.
It's so huge.
So I think like one thing I'm really trying to like come to a conclusion of analysis is that it's love, like you, and it doesn't just mean like love for your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
It just means if you're in love with something, whether it be what you do, whether it be a hobby, you forget about all the negative things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what like, and because I'm always asking this question, like how do we get people to fight the resistance of doubt and fear and like get rid of that state of mind? And I think those people aren't in love, and because they're not in love with anything, that they find burden in everything.
I think
right?
what you're talking about too is not just love in the sense of interpersonal.
Like love for what you do, love for like
it's
your
meaning in life. It's like passion. Is that it's the same fabric that gives you drive. When you're doing something that's meaningful in life, that's the same thing you're talking about. It's not just simply there's people who love me in a cliche manner.
I mean, like there is like that love can also drive you very far.
Yeah.
Like shows in Matrix, he comes back to fucking life and has superpowers.
Right.
Like he becomes Jesus Christ because of love. You know what I mean? So but not only in that sense, like I think if you truly find love in life through what your hobby is and you try to make a job out of that, you'll be in love with life. And you won't be so resistant to going to work because you love what you do. And I think that's what people always say, but they don't analyze it that way. They just kind of like look at it and go like, yeah, I know what that means, but they don't really look at it and try to think about and understand what that really means. Like, what does it mean to be in love? And it doesn't have to be with another person. Some cases, a lot of great cases it is, right? And that's how like some legends are even made. You know, they always say behind a great man, there's a great woman too. Like there's another quote. And I think in like Sparta, like in Greece, like they really believed in women because they're the ones who gave birth to warriors. Right?
Did either of you guys ever have a time where you like fucking stop saying like, it's driving me crazy. Listening to some of the podcasts, it's so frustrating, but we're working on it. Did any of you guys had a time where maybe you can think back to where you were suppressing that? Like I think a lot of people are afraid of indulging that because there's a part of opening yourself to that love that leaves you vulnerable, right?
For sure.
Because you can't.
For sure.
It's almost like you can't have your cake and eat it too type thing. Like you can't experience that, let's say, purity of existence without the contrast of the vulnerability. Because the reason that is so positive, let's say, or good, is that it's in contrast to all the negative possibility or all the bad. Like, and I just see a lot of people who always second guess themselves when they want to do something, or they always feel guilty about the things they want to do. And I never understood what it is.
Yeah, I mean,
because I would say I went through that for the longest time, never being able to pull the trigger on what I wanted to do. Always felt like there was most simple examples, like when you're talking about running. You know, you want to go out and do something good for yourself, and something simple like a house chore that could be done later. You use that as an excuse to suppress to
kind of justify it to yourself.
Yeah, and then, but it's just guilt, and I don't know where that comes from.
It's got to be some sort of like, I always go back to like ego. And let's go egos. Why don't we say egos? Because there's multiple. Personality of you that attaches to multiple different things. So if there's a part of you that's attached to schedule, time, and being like, you know, doing what you got to do, ego, that's what makes you feel like guilt, because that's the part that's you're trying to kill off at that moment so that an other part of you can flourish.
You know what I think it's related to? I think it's related to the idea that if you leave your goals undefined and really wishy-washy, then you never have a criteria for failure. But if you specify a goal, you now have outlined one small point of success, and the rest becomes failure. And I think it's related to that. When you,
I can see that.
I don't know, I can't figure out how it's related yet, but that came to my head, was that when you access that part of you you get the intimation that that's your, like, let's say true passion, for lack of a better word, or that thing that gives you meaning, it now creates a hierarchy for everything else that's not that. So it sets you up for disappointment, because now that specifies your aim, right? Because that feeling of love, passion, meaning, purpose, whatever you want to call it, that is synonymous with your aim in life, or your highest value. So as soon as you specify that and break it down into this specific thing, like, you and I, the term you always come up with, somatic educators, right?
Yeah.
It took me a long time to actually focus on one thing. I kind of had the Peter Pan syndrome for a long time, where I wanted to be everything. I wanted to study the body, but I also wanted to make music. I also wanted to, fucking do whatever. Be a philosophy major. Like, I'd be a writer, like, for the longest time I would do something for a week and then bounce around.
Yeah.
But at some point you have to specify one thing and dedicate yourself to it. But I think that's what people are afraid of, and that's why they can't, they suppress that thing, because
for sure
they're leaving it wishy-washy. They're leaving it undefined. So then
it's because
they don't have to feel.
It's because they're satisfying all the parts of them. But if you truly want to be if you want to be like who you really are, and there is a calling to everybody. Like, there is this one thing, like, it's so weird because everyone has this one thing they really want to do. Everybody does, but nobody does it.
That's the thing, because that thing comes with responsibility. Because once you acknowledge that, like I said, now you've outlined the criteria for everything else being insufficient in your life. And that's heavy. That's hard for people to really dedicate.
It's kind of hitting home right now to me. I'm just going like, God damn. I'm like, I think that's what I've been feeling recently, because I think I've really committed to something, and it's making me realize that I have to let go of a lot of things. Damn, that's pretty intense.
Well, it's even just going to jiu-jitsu, right? I love jiu-jitsu. I really want to work it into my life, but I just can't right now. And for a few weeks after we started school, I felt bad about it, because I was in the mind state of, I told myself I'd commit to this and I'd see it through, and I don't have doubt that I'm going to. I'm never going to stop doing jiu-jitsu. Even if I took a year off, I will come back. Yeah. But I go to school from 9 to 4 and I work from 5 to 7:30. Like, I come home, I cook, and I go to bed. So for the next year, basically, I won't be able to do it other than over our breaks. But like you're saying, I'm okay with it right now, because I understand why, and I understand that my priorities are in order, and you can't have it all. You can't spread yourself thin if you want to become a razor edge, right?
Exactly.
If you want to be the tip of the arrow, you can't flatten yourself out.
No.
You
have to channel your energy.
Yeah.
And it's cool that you guys say that, because they say that in Zen, like the meditation, like Zen, like in that kind of, I guess, philosophy, in Zen philosophy, they say you're walking on the razor's edge of now constantly. That's what they say, right? And it's almost kind of cool that, like, you're sharpening yourself to a fine point, but you can only do so through being very present and attentive and focused, right? Yeah. So it's almost like they go hand in hand.
That was the quote you gave for the second podcast.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Put them up at the beginning of the videos.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that?
I didn't remember it.
Yeah, but
now
by the way, Tyler is unofficially our biggest fan. As
Yeah.
far as the record goes, he's listened to more podcasts than any other.
We're very honored to have him
any
here.
other of the 5 people who have listened to this podcast.
I've listened to 4 for sure, and then like the first 5 minutes of 5. So I'm working my way through them right now. I'm trying to get through them at work, but I definitely listening to them.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And a huge fan.
Yeah, appreciate it.
The only fan.
The only
biggest
fan.
fan.
The biggest fan.
As long
For
as
now.
we
For
have a
now.
fan,
For
like,
now.
I didn't even think I was even gonna be listened to, when I started this thing. So it means a lot.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We
It's not what it's about.
We went
It's
in
not
with
what it's
that.
about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
We discussed that beforehand.
Yeah,
Like, it's
so-
not about that.
And that like always goes. I always think about the whole like not being focused on the fruit of your labor. Like it just keep doing the thing you're doing, and eventually it will happen.
Being process oriented.
Yeah, but instead of like and process or achievement or goal oriented, because then a lot of times people are like that, and once they achieve a goal, they're like, okay, now what? Because you're so, and like that like stumbles them, that like destroys their flow almost. It like shatters their like whole world.
Hey, you go into depression, right?
Yeah, like it does. It ruins some people. So
Yeah.
instead of being so focused on like the fruit of your labor, like where you're going, just focus on where you're going.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of weird. Like I kind of
Fall in love with the labor.
yeah,
No.
yeah, exactly.
Not the outcome.
And that's why it's so important about not what you're doing, why you're doing, or where you're doing it. It's all about how you're doing it all the time and every time. And it's so hard to do, and I understand that. And I think it's just, but it's like the fight that you think you will never win, almost trying to do that. But it always starts out like that. And I think like if people just believe in themselves, like Tyler can, and just believe that they can overcome that whole continuously trying to be present and focusing on everything, on how you're doing, like trying to focus on your breathing the whole day while you're on top, focusing on how you interact with other people, and focusing on the way you speak while you're focusing on the way you eat and the way and it's just like you're playing real life Sims. I always go back to games. Because it's the same thing, because it gives you a outside perspective of like your own life.
Well,
And being able to
playing a game.
yeah, you because
Really?
you always have to be observing and watching yourself, right? And if you're not, there's another part of you that's going to take over, and it's often like a bad part of you. It's often a part of you that's lazy, often a
Yep.
part of you that wants to be gluttonous, another part that wants to be all the bad stuff comes out, right?
Exactly.
Well, going back to what your original point was about focusing on the work, that's, I think I've brought this up to you, Jimmy, saying to people who tell me, oh, I want to get into shape, like I really want to do it. And I kind of ask a question in this manner. Do you want to be somebody who's in shape, or do you want to be somebody who shows up to put the work in 5 days a week? Right? You get the difference there? There's some people who think they want to be great at something or be successful at something, but there's people like that who don't appreciate the way they are, and
The journey.
It's a vain endeavor. And that's why last night when you show me your schedule, I was like, Tyler's got 2 months printed out schedules day to day of everything he's going to do in terms of training, even work as well.
Yeah,
I'm
and
pretty
work.
sure, right?
Yeah, and
so
work.
that's somebody who's, he's
And
focused
trying.
on getting up every day and putting the work in, not longing for the fruits of the labor. He's just concerned with putting the labor in, and that's a crucial thing that I think anybody who wants to be better than they are now needs to understand. It's not
I agree.
It's not once I'm finished school, then I can blank. That's what I tell people. That's like the biggest pitfall is if I could just, then I will be blank. Like that's a pitfall everybody falls into. They think that if I just had another 2 hours a day, then I'd go to the gym. It's like, no. That's not how it works.
Let's find those 2 hours.
Right.
This is what we got to do.
Problem solving.
Find 10 minutes.
Let's break it down. Let's take.
And you know what? The thing about problem solving that I find is that it's not about how good or well you problem solve. It matters where your mind is in. If your mind is in the future or in the past, you cannot problem solve the present moment. The problem is happening right now, but if your mind is somewhere else, you cannot problem solve. So like I think that's like another thing is like, you know, I always go back to like just being here, but like it's like a lot of people aren't here. That's why they can't figure out why they're getting so sick. And so like every time they go to the doctor, they keep being told that their like cholesterol levels are bad. They need to do this test, they need to do that test. Like, you know, like they because they're so stuck about the way things are doing, you know, like they're so attached to the way they used to do things, which is like stuck in their past, that they can't problem solve about what's happening right now, like why they're getting so shit health and why they're getting so sick, and like they're just slowly dying essentially.
That reminded me of Jimmy and I are listening to the audiobook of The Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
That reminded me of the old man in the crystal shop. He has the dream of going to Mecca to make the pilgrimage, and what's the main character's name?
Santiago.
Santiago asks him, well, why don't you go? And he says something along the lines of, if I go, I'll lose my dream. I'll no longer have something to look forward to. So I'd rather just stay here in my old life and dream about it. And I think a lot of people are stuck in that.
Yeah, they like, it's almost like they're like in a, what's that called, where you're like when you die but you don't actually go anywhere and you're stuck here still.
Oh, purgatory.
Yeah, it's almost like you're stuck in purgatory.
Whoa,
you know,
like a living
yeah, you're
purgatory.
stuck in a living purgatory, and that's not in like all these spiritual like world and dimensions, that can be applied to your real everyday life. Like, you know, when they talk about heaven and hell, they're not talking about the real figurative place. They're talking about a metaphorical place. Like your life could be heaven if you live it right, or it can be complete living hell.
I don't even think it's metaphorical.
Yeah,
I think it's as literal as you can possibly
it
imagine.
really is. It really is. So like, you know, purgatory isn't a place where when someone dies and they're not going anywhere. It's you're living in purgatory yourself if you're stuck in this in between world of like indecisiveness, and you don't know where, you're not really here in this present moment, but you're not really living in the past or the future, and you don't know where you really are. You're just lost.
You're frozen in this splinter of time where all you can experience is the potential of the future, but it's never tangible.
Yeah,
because you're stuck in that in between.
Yeah, and I feel like that's where everyone's living in. Like almost like a lot of people are living that world, you know, and it's so like, it breaks my heart to see that, because I feel like I see a lot of that at home with my parents, who are like very traditional, and like they had to come as immigrants, and like so they, you know, like they have all these like mental fears that they couldn't ever really deal with, you know, and like they had to like just kind of get by, and like so I see a lot of that at home, and like it's like living with dragons. I always tell Matt, it's you know, like, because it's everything that I'm against, and it's everything that I don't believe in, that my parents are, and it's just like, holy shit, like, you know, it's like a fighting every day when you wake up with and you can't even blame them. That's the thing, because they don't even know it. And it's so like, it just, and like you can see them stuck in the purgatory, and you just, and like it's a weird feeling, man.
I want to go back and read about purgatory.
Yeah, like it's just
I'm
like
interesting to like listen how it's described in religious texts.
Yeah, that could be something. Yeah, that could be something to look into for sure.
Shit.
Yeah, we're going all over the place.
The ship goes deep. So what's new, Jimmy?
What is new?
We're just studying, Jimmy. Nothing's ever new for Jimmy and I. We see each other every day.
Yeah.
So we go to school together.
Yeah, so it's pretty much like, I mean, I find that school has been really useful for me, and I used to really, but I guess it's only because we go to a decent school. Like I feel like I lucked out by fluke on going to a school that bases their school on like a focus on education and teaching the students, not just following a curriculum and trying to get them to know the same kind of thing. It's more about how to make the environment like, you know, useful for their learning, and and all those things. So yeah, like I've been really enjoying school. I think this is the first time I've really truly enjoyed going to school and learning. Yeah.
I was thinking about this in the shower yesterday. How that's where all the best stuff.
Yeah.
While I was peeing in the shower, I was thinking,
Which everybody does.
great way to get rid of athlete's foot. Just pee on your feet every day. You'll never get athlete's
It's an old
foot.
hockey trick right there.
Old hockey.
Yeah, but hockey players are weird. You fucking piss on each other's feet and
We won't even get into it.
ass slapping in the shower.
Hey.
I was there once upon a time.
It is what it is.
I was thinking yesterday how grateful I am for Alan, Lee, Nick,
yeah.
because they really have integrity. So
These are your professors?
yeah, so it's a private college, right?
Mm-hmm.
We weren't on strike or anything.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy's saying, there's no
Lucky
curriculum.
guys.
They really are people who are passionate about what they do, and they teach us what they truly believe we need to know. And recently, this is what I was talking about before. Jimmy, you know about this TA, Lindsay Shepard at
Oh, right.
Laurier University, basically went through an inquisition a few weeks ago because she showed a video of Dr. Jordan Peterson debating somebody on The Agenda. It's a TVO network or station. And they brought her in for questioning. The interview or the inquisition, because that's what it was all recorded.
Okay.
They basically accused her of being a transphobe, racist, all this bullshit, simply for showing a Jordan Peterson video because they claim that he is a white national. I don't know what they claim.
Oh
he
man,
is.
they say
Transphobic white
everything you can
nationalist.
think about.
The guy said he is comparable to Hitler
Wow.
or
Yeah.
Milo Yiannopoulos, which is pretty funny.
Which is,
But
and
I don't know
like
if you
that-
know who Milo Yiannopoulos is.
I'm
but,
not familiar, but
dude, they.
It's just the reaction of
this
people
professor has been teaching for 15 years about Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia and how dangerous it is. Like, he could not be more of an anti-Nazi, regardless of the specifics of that. It's. I don't want to talk too much about it because I think I'm going to do a segment on my own where I look into this and talk about it because this, like, I'm shaking right now. It infuriates me because the universities
eyes.
are completely corrupted by this uber super left wing PC postmodern bullshit, and it's the portion of our population who it is affecting is the most vulnerable, which is young adults at 18 years old, and they're getting indoctrinated into I don't even know what you call it. It's utterly pathological, but it's, I guess, as a description, loosely defined as postmodernist, like neo-Marxist type doctrines of class-based ideology. And in this, the whole inquisition is online, and the guy, she says to the professor who's interrogating her, and I know I'm doing a terrible job of describing this. I just listened to it yesterday and I haven't wrapped my head around it. She says something along the lines of, should I shelter kids from this? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Is shelter kids from actual viewpoints that are actually out there and people's opinions when they get out in the world? Like, that is antithetical to what the university is about. And the professor basically says, yes, in some cases, you should not expose kids to ideas.
Kids.
Which,
kids,
well,
They're pretty much adults.
This
at
is
that
what-
point.
this is what I was going to
absolutely
say.
are adults.
She brought up and said, they're 18. They're legal adults.
Yeah.
And the guy said, they're young adults. They shouldn't be exposed to these type of ideas yet. They can't handle it. This is like adults. Actually what this guy is saying. They said that these kids can't handle it. Maybe you could show that to a third year student. What he said was that it was the equivalent of showing a Nazi recruitment video to a first year class.
It's like telling, like that perspective, the whole, maybe a third year student, is that what he said?
Yeah, or a graduate student.
It's like almost, it's like, okay, when is it okay to tell your kid about Santa Claus? It's kind of like, is that, are you kidding? Like, are you kidding me? Young adults? Like, no, young adults. Yeah. Like, let's take the key word here. Adults and kids. They're not kids. They want to know the truth. Give them, if this is
and
open
even if they don't want the truth, they need to grow up at one point. And if we don't expose them to the factors of the harshness of growing up and the reality of what things are, when are they ever gonna find out? When they're 35, living in their mom's basement, still working? Like, that doesn't make sense. If these people are taught the harshness, maybe they'll realize sooner than faster that living in your mom's basement after 35 years is not a good place to be.
I can't think of anything more dangerous to do to a young individual than to tell them the world is too dangerous for you. You need our help. You can't handle it on your own. That is the opposite of what the education system, particularly universities, is supposed to be for. And Jordan Peterson said this during that speech we went to. It's not anymore. It's really not the spirit of the universities anymore. The idea of this is a place where you come to battle ideas, as we describe our classroom in Pathophys as I describe as the what's the word, like an intellectual conclave or battlefield.
Actually, that is
supposed to be what the university is. It's not supposed to be pushing one idea. And that's explicitly what the universities are doing. They're saying, if you do not teach the ideologies that we believe in, then you are not fit to teach the students at this school.
Well, that just goes to like natural selection and like evolution, and like if you make a group of species just breed with each other, it gets weaker and weaker and weaker. But if you expose them to more different variables and different gene pools, it becomes stronger and stronger. So in education, you need multiple viewpoints in order to get to a higher ground, you know? So if you only stick to one idea in education, you're just going to create a falsified idea that you think is true, which is just a set of beliefs that, like, you know, that's not backed by anything but opinion and, like, you know, what you're attached to. And so, like, yeah, like, I think you're absolutely right. Education can only further itself in a battleground. Like, it needs to be having multiple people tackling one idea, and, you know, whoever wins, but like, or whoever gets the most right, that makes most sense.
But that's the root of the problem, is the ideology behind it has nothing to do with truth, rationality, science. These are just made up terms to these people. They don't matter. Like, rational argument does not matter. And it's why this person can go into an interview and say, how dare you show a video of a white nationalist, transphobe, whatever the fuck names. I don't know what names they just, there's a slew of names. They just read the list. That's it. They just pick a person and say, you're all of these things. Like this girl, Lindsay Shepherd, she was accused of using her white woman privilege to what was the words? Somehow she used her white woman privilege to demean the professor who was interrogating her. Like, I have no idea. I don't even know what kind of claims are those? I don't even know what race, what ethnicity this guy is. But somehow she was getting accused of using her power to bully him.
Wow.
Like, this is how far this is. I don't know. I'm butchering this.
Either way, it frustrates me hearing about like that.
If you want to get the gist of it, listen to Lindsay Shepherd on the Rubin Report, because he goes through with her, pulls the clips out
Oh
of
yeah,
the
they
interrogation.
analyze the.
There's the Inquisition's 42 minutes long, I think. So I've only listened to a handful of segments. I need to sit down and listen to the whole thing. But I can't resist the urge to punch my fucking computer screen. Like, I was so infuriated listening to this guy talk to her. It was...
Well, you warned me. You sent me the video link and said, don't watch this if you're studying right now because you're just going to get super pissed.
The most frustrating thing is, what do you do? Like, it doesn't seem like there's anything tangible that you can do about it.
Oh, yeah.
It's very, very frustrating. And I don't mean to over-embellish it, but I'm reading the Gulag Archipelago right now, and I'm learning about Soviet Russia and how it was a slow onset. It was a slow building of little victory here, little victory here, little victory here by the Soviets, and then all of a sudden it's too late and you can't turn back. And we're in that stage.
We're slowly letting those small wins happen, right?
This is exactly what Jordan Peterson said a year ago when he made the video about Bill C-16, saying that it could be interpreted that if you the Bill C-16 could be interpreted as compelled speech through the interpretation of the Human Rights Tribunal, which is or the Human Rights Guidelines Tribunal, whatever you want to call it. That's what interprets Bill C-16, which essentially states that it's a social constructionist theory of gender. It says that there's no link between biological gender, sexual identity, sexual proclivity, and what's the third one? Gender expression. Meanwhile, these things are so tightly linked you can hardly pull them apart on scientifically or statistically. But it's interpreted through the lens of the Human Rights Commission Tribunal. I can't remember what exactly that website is deemed. And now a year later, it's getting proven right again because this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, so, like it's weird how people are. I don't know who, like it's like he's not even really trying to do anything bad, you know, but people are taking it so offensively. He's just doing what is right.
Yeah, I would say he couldn't be
he's not
any further from an evil person. Not that, as he would say, he doesn't have a capacity for evil.
Yeah.
I would say that I don't know if I've ever seen anybody else trying to strive for the good more than that man.
Yeah, like,
and he's making a difference. I won't say that it's like, I'm not completely pessimistic about it. I am right now because of watching that video. It's really terrifying. But I think that there are a large amount of people who are getting it on the other end. That this game plan of playing the victim, blaming other people for your problems, segregating people based on class-based identity is just not acceptable.
It almost seems like the culture of convenience also made that possible.
Yep.
Being a victim. It's so much easier to be the victim, right?
Mm-hmm.
So much easier to say it's your fault, not your own. So I think it's like it almost ties down to like convenience too. Just like because we live in such a world where convenience is so like, it's just like, remember what our even professor kind of gave, we even said to you, it's like you have too much hope, Matt, for people. Remember how because we were talking about orthotics, and like
that bugged me.
Yeah, well, no, it bugged me too. I was like, oof, like that's like because he was also like firing shots at me because I believe the same thing you believe in. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in having a band-aid and fixing your symptoms for convenience. I believe in tackling the true problem, and when you tackle the true problem, you have to go through a series of effort. And its effort means you have to go to war with a couple of things, and it'll get ugly and dirty, and people don't accept that. You know, it's just like when you're hurting, like when you have a joint pain, the only thing that's gonna make it better is moving it around. You're gonna experience some pain along it. You have to accept that fact. And people don't, because it's not convenient to do that. So they rather just get a surgery, take a bunch of pills, and have someone else look after them with their own joint, which they're not even a part of their life for. But this doctor is looking over my surgery. It's like, what are you doing? You're just dishing out responsibility to everybody else.
Yeah.
You know?
Gad Saad interviewed Lindsay Shepherd. I watched that quick one. It's only like 50 minutes, and he said something at the end of their podcast. Said, a soldier going into battle does not go into battle without the understanding that he might get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to win a war, you have to understand that you may have to be the soldier that falls so somebody else behind you can be successful. And there's so many people who are not willing to do that. And listen, I get it. It's not the easy path to stick up for what you believe in and to truly live with integrity. But when
love.
When somebody says that to me, like, you have too much hope for people, and in somebody who's responsible for
but it's
taking care of other people, the way I look at it is, what else are you going to do? What's the other option? Just lay back and do what everybody else is doing? That's what I said to him.
Yeah.
I said, this Band-Aid fix, giving people orthotics if they have a bad foot, and I'm not saying it's necessarily always bad, and I was very reasonable when I talked to him. I said, I actually asked him, what is your opinion? Mm-hmm. And there's already 1,000 people giving out orthotics. So why do I need to do that too?
Yeah, like it's...
What's the worst that happens if I try to do what's best for people? I fail?
It's not even that you
So
fail. Like, and he was kind of even going along the lines of business. Like, people aren't going to look after your service if you're not going to... But I'm like, you know what? But there will be few people who will really give a goddamn about where they're going with their health. And there will be people who won't accept medication and Band-Aids as a source of... Because it won't work for them. There's some people who take medication for pain and it does not work. And they are looking for answers. And sometimes the answer is you need to just do hard work and get back to connecting your body to your mind. And that's going to be the ultimate cure. Not taking a pill, not getting some ultrasound done, not getting a cold ice laser therapy, not getting the newest technology and getting stem cells injected. Sure, those things can help, but it's not really fixing the root problem. It's your psyche and mental positions. Mm-hmm. You need to be changing those things first, and your body follows. Mm-hmm. They know that their body can heal itself. But did you know that your mind plays like that? You know, like if you think about your own pain, you meditate your own pain, you're more likely your immune system will focus more on trying to heal that area, right? It works like that. It sounds wishy-washy, but it isn't.
Well, you know, when I was teaching you about the myofascial release on the legs, what was I explaining? The most important thing was you can't be tense. You have to physically relax your mind and let the medicine ball into your tissue. It's not a muscular issue getting rid of a fascial adhesion. Yeah. It's a neurological issue. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly what you're talking about. You have to connect those things. And even think of the stuff that we're working on right now. So I'm working with Tyler a little bit for Jimmy, I'm hijacking your term again, somatic education.
Yeah, but that is the term. That is the term. It's teaching people how to feel and understand their own bodies.
Right. And it works. And it works.
But how much concentration does it take just to simply rotate your rib cage without your hips?
Man, right? it's honestly, and it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it's the slightest. If you could look at a person and be like, "You're not even doing anything." Like, you're not, but it's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting, and it's the little things, and the little things matter.
But it's hard to find people who appreciate it. Like, today was clunky in the way I ran the session and my explanations and things like that. And I'm grateful that you're somebody I can tell you don't lose focus. Like, a lot of people I work with at the gym, as soon as you miss a step,
they're gone.
Going back to the convenience. They want everything to be perfect all the way through. They don't want to do any of the work. So as soon as you miss a step or you maybe explain something wrong, they just go straight to, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But you stay with me and, it'll be worth it. Because today we went off on a tangent a little bit and I found out that your shoulder has got some adhesions in it because
super tight.
You've dislocated it a couple times.
It's those little things, like, people like wake up every day and some of them stay to a stretching routine, but what I started to do was I wake up and I listen to what my body's telling me. Where do I feel tightness today? Because it's not always in my hips. Sometimes it's in my between my shoulder blades and the back, that's where it's worse when I wake up. Sometimes it is my hips that's really bad, but it's where do I feel the tightness? Is it in the back of my hips or is it the front of my hips? It's like people don't take the time and you don't need to know any sort of anatomy to do this. You just need to feel your body out through just moving around. But people are become so disconnected that they can't even do that sort of maintenance work. Very, very rudimentary, basic maintenance work. That's how far we are off from people. Like, that's why health is deteriorating at its epidemic rate. Holy Jesus H fucking Christ, how many people, like, it's scary about how you syndrome X, metabolic syndrome, you said 1 out of 3 Americans pretty much have this metabolic syndrome, which is like a pre-diabetic stage, and like 100 million people in that state.
Metabolic
do you know how
metabolic syndrome is a series of symptoms or conditions in the body, like hypertension,
like insulin resistance. So like, you know, like
that
pretty much sets you up for diabetes,
cardiovascular disease, stroke,
and all kinds of.
What's the third one? There's 4 technically. Heart disease.
Yeah, cardiovascular disease.
Sorry, cardiovascular disease. That's a good thing we got a test on this next week.
But regardless, it's 1 out of and so imagine if 1 out of 3 Canadians was like that. Okay, and 1 out of 3 Canadians actually are undiagnosed in some sort of diabetes. You know?
Right now the statistic is 1 million people have metabolic disease in Canada.
Yeah,
but a third are undiagnosed, so we could be in actually the same boat as the States.
And the crazy thing is how much of our tax money is going to healthcare to take care of that. If everybody just took care of responsibilities for themselves, all that accessible money could be used for what we don't know. So many good things.
Did I tell you what Chris Kresser said? Do you know who Chris Kresser is?
No.
He's I don't know what his title is, but he studies nutrition.
Okay.
He has a podcast called can't think of it. He was on Rogan's podcast. He said by 2040, I believe, at the current rate that the states are moving at in terms of chronic diseases, 100% of the federal budget will be going to healthcare.
That's what I was gonna.
100%.
That's what I was just gonna say, because I'm like, okay, so comparing us to the States, if all of us were like that, and eventually if it keeps climbing, because obesity is on the rise in Canada, it's not even falling. That rate isn't even falling.
Yeah, what do they say? When the state sneezes, Canada gets a cold.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's
so
true.
it's eventually all of our tax money is gonna be pretty much used for healthcare.
You know where it is?
Yeah.
You go by the door, down the hallway, at the first one on the right.
Okay, I'll be right back.
For sure.
Don't eat my cheese. I take my cheese seriously. Tyler's going to pee.
I probably have to go too.
I got iron bladder.
Iron bladder.
I got the Joe Rogan bladder.
The Joe Rogan.
I haven't peed yet. Not
You
one
haven't-
podcast.
you haven't peed one
What's up,
podcast.
son? You can go too. I'll rock this bitch solo if you want. Might as well not interrupt it again. You can also just pee in the backyard. That's also acceptable.
Ooh.
Just walk out the door. Yeah, I really apologize to Lindsay Shepherd that I did not do that story a service. I didn't do it due service, but justice. That's the word I was looking for. But I get flustered when I talk about this stuff. It's utterly frustrating because I've really come to realize how important honesty is and truth is, no matter what the consequences are. Not just for the moment of deciphering the truth, but really for your being, for your soul, if you will. We don't talk about these things in Western culture at all because we've become fearful of vulnerability and looking silly, that these wishy-washy spiritual ideas become comical. Phone stop ringing. We're just very arrogant as a society, and it's very reminiscent of the story of Babel in the Old Testament, where the civilization gets so arrogant that it builds a tower to reach the heavens, and that metaphor is signifying people getting so arrogant to the point where they think that they don't need God anymore. You choose whatever word you want, because nobody knows what you mean when you say God, but the transcendent or anything like that. And, well, what happens when they build a tower? Civilization crashes. And we're getting to a point where we're so arrogant that we think that we can lie and get away with it. I'm talking about the university thing again.
Okay.
I was first apologizing for how terrible I went into that story, but it's
I definitely don't think it wasn't terrible. I'm not familiar with the story, so I can't really vouch on it too much. But I mean, it kind of infuriates me too, and I don't even get the full gist of it just from you going over what you did. This isn't just a little bit ridiculous. It's just really like, this is where we're at right now.
This isn't the first.
This is
time
university.
this has happened.
Like, this is university. Like.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's but it's not. The thing is it's not just the university. It's percolating.
Oh, for sure.
It's percolating, and if we don't get it under control, it's not going to be pleasant for anybody, because the extension of this type of, well, what's been instantiated into the law is it's going to make its way into every profession, and nobody's going to be able to tell the truth ever, because you're going to be liable for
anything that's regulated is going to go. It's going to, because you even showed me about upper society of
the Law Society.
Yeah, Law
Upper
Society.
Law Society of Canada.
And like they were going through kind of the similar things. Like they were forced. All the lawyers were forced to write out something where they had to pretty much say they were
statement of beliefs.
Yeah, statement of beliefs.
And the statement of the beliefs has to be in line with the new, let's call it, neo-Marxist trinity of equity, equity, diversity, and what's the last one? Equity,
I don't
diversity,
quite remember. You're better. You're way more into this than I am.
Equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Inclusion, diversity,
right.
And equity, which is really funny because Jordan Peterson figured out that the acronym stands for DIE, which is, it's fairly homicidal if you see it out to its end. Just read the Gulag. But this...
Yeah, that
so
sounds
basically
like
what happens is if these lawyers refuse to write this statement, it's not concrete yet. They've left the punishment or the penalty very blank, so they can kind of choose the punishment on an individual basis. But essentially, the license will be revoked if our lawyers do not write a statement of beliefs. So that is compelled speech.
Yeah, that's
requested for.
That's not even
the
free. That's
lawyers.
That's the opposite of freedom of speech. You're being forced to say things that also have to align with their like policies and position statements.
Yeah.
So you're not actually saying what you want to say in the first place, anyways. Nope. And the scariest thing is all these lawyers, just because like it's what they have to do to continue to keep their license up to date, that they're not going to focus on what the issue is. They're just going to sign it off and just do it and then just get rid of it so they can continue to practice.
This is the incremental pushing back of the front line. This is, so many people will just think this is innocuous.
Yeah,
like,
but it's absolutely...
it's just a simple statement. I just got to say some bullshit. They'll put it in a file drawer. No, it's much.
Yeah, but it's gonna start adding up, and then if the upper law society is gonna let things slide, then the university is gonna let things slide, then the government is gonna let things slide. Then now what?
Here's another
Right?
thing. I don't know if anybody listening may have this at their workplace, but if you are required to take part in racial subconscious subconscious bias retraining, something along those lines. Basically, there's retraining because a certain organization is deemed to be systemically racist, so they do subconscious bias retraining. Know that if you agree to do that training, you are validating the fact that you agree that you are a racist and that you need retraining. Just understand that. It's not just, I'll do it and whatever, we'll get it over with. Like, you are agreeing to the fact that you are racist and that you require retraining. This is like happening everywhere.
Surprised they didn't put it in the trades first. Like,
Oh, that'll be the last place.
oh, I don't know if it'll ever go there. Like, can't see it doing too well, anyways.
Yeah.
But no, that's honestly it is. It's mind blowing. Like, it's crazy to think about.
It's like, when do we? It's like, I don't know. It's almost like they're trying to make everyone's feelings be okay. It sounds almost like kindergartenish. You know?
Well,
everybody
It's-
gets a participation medal.
Yeah, it's just like,
Well,
what is
thanks
that
for showing
about?
up.
Gadsad was talking about the two ways that you can view the world. Or there's two evolutionary terms that he talked about: a consequentialist and I can't remember the other one, but it's something to do with truth. So the first one is you believe that truth is the highest value, even if providing somebody with the truth will have an immediate consequence or a negative impact. But your belief is that it is more important that they know the truth than that their temporary happiness is redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
And the other viewpoint is the consequentialist, which is you can say that truth is important, but if the truth is likely to cause somebody harm, then you believe it's better to shelter them from that harm and tell a lie instead. And that's, you can kind of map onto the polarization of political beliefs right now. Is we are moving towards the idea that people are incapable of handling the truth and being exposed to some discomfort for during open discussion about maybe ideas they disagree with or harsh truths about reality, that we believe that they should not be exposed to that, which goes back to like what they're saying about
Like,
the
what
kids. The kids can't be
what
exposed to
difference?
these
What
ideas.
difference is that other than like, there's no difference between that and like the Matrix. It's like people literally want people to be stuck in the Matrix. That's what it's like. It's
They
like,
want to be able to control it all.
be safe here. Be okay here. Don't realize what's really happening out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like they're literally offering everyone the blue pill.
Well, yeah. Like, do you guys believe in the Bilderberg group? Like, is there a higher? No.
I don't know, man.
Like, I know that's a completely. It's different, but is there people that want to control us all? Are we just all pawns? Like, is that a real thing? I don't know. Like, it seems kind of crazy, but there's. I don't know.
I don't believe that people are that competent to really have that much control over people. But
I would hope not, anyways.
here's the thing. I don't need to believe in that right now because the Human Justice Tribunal is a real thing. And these are real people who are moving down the path of evil.
No, for
and
sure.
who are really interested in unleashing their built-up bitterness and resentment about their own insufficiencies in life. That's enough of a threat for me to focus on right now. I don't need to think of any sort of overlord, Illuminati, conspiratory.
There definitely
right
is a
now.
group of people with holds a lot of power because of their financial influence.
University administrations. that's scary enough right now for me.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are, and like that's something that we also have to like look at though. Like Tyler is right, because like what are these people with all this money really doing with all of that? What are they doing with all of that stuff? Like what are they trying to do? Like, you know, and it influences all of us. That's the thing, right?
Well, that's the dangerous part with this new wave of let's call it infection, is that it's not necessarily just the people with money are talking about this. It's the people with influence. It's the mid-level administration that's being indoctrinated, because this is where this indoctrination comes from primarily right now, is the social sciences, right? So these are the people who are going into, you know, jobs that are human resources, things like this. People who really hold people's careers in their hands. And it's where you get situations like Brett Weinstein, the biology professor at, I always forget the name of this college. It's a little tiny college in the States.
I'm not sure either. Listen to him on Rogan's podcast, so.
Somewhere in Maine, is it? No.
I can't remember. But,
maybe.
You know, he was, I don't know if you use the term, not extradited, but he was outcasted.
Exiled.
He was exiled or, you know, red flagged by the university for showing up to school on a day that the university put out I don't know, notice or whatever, that this was a day where white people didn't show up to school. So in this town, I'll give you the background. The college starts with an E, by the way, but that's as close as I can get. This little area has a ritual, or what do you call it? Tradition, where I think it was just black people didn't show up to school on this one day. And the history is that during the civil rights movement, the black people of that city wanted to prove a point that they were integral to the functioning of the town. So all the black people didn't show up for work one day. And, you know, obviously things got fucked up because a lot of them were involved in the Evergreen State College. That's it. And so this tradition carried on to the school. So there was a day of the year where the black students wouldn't show up to school. It was voluntarily. They did it, right?
Okay.
So the university just completely disregarded the spirit of the tradition, and in their search for inclusion, diversity, and equity, they said, well, we should have a day where white people don't show up to school. So that's, first of all, an explicitly racist
thought
proposition, right? This isn't voluntarily white people saying, I don't even know why you would say that. I don't even why they would.
I don't even know. I'm so lost with that. I'm baffled. I'm like, where did you come up with that?
Brett Weinstein.
Like, where did those people come up with that?
You're a university educated person, and you're going to justify this to an educational board.
So Brett Weinstein showed up, obviously, and there were these protests and whatnot, and basically the president of the university didn't back him up, and basically folded under the pressure of these students, and this leads to this, and there were students going around on campus looking for him with baseball bats, and he has to move because they were stalking his house and all this. Like,
and the cops didn't get involved.
No.
They really, because that's
the university.
That's a threat.
Specifically,
exactly. Isn't
requested that the cops do not get involved. Something along that.
How did the cops justify that?
Because they're above the university's policies.
Yeah, because it's campus police. They requested that campus police not get involved. Something along those lines, where, like you said, Brett was actually not protected.
Who makes the call there?
Yeah.
Who's the one making the call? Who is that?
Like that should be like a case in a court.
I can't
and
remember.
have those whoever was involved there be guilty of some sort of like attempted homicide.
Really though? Like,
yeah,
really?
Like that's what would have been really. That's like if you took that to a real court, that's what would have happened. You know, like that man's life was in danger.
We're not dealing with real courts.
Yeah,
kangaroo
courts,
courts.
right?
That's
somebody's corrupt in
dude,
there. Like there is proof that there is corruption.
Yeah.
In that system.
Yeah,
There's
something
proof right there.
During the speech, when the president was talking to the students, they were yelling at him saying, "Stop moving your hands," because he was talking, right? And people talk, they move their hands. It's one of the social mannerisms that we perform as people. They said he was performing microaggressions with his moving his hands while he was speaking, and they asked him to stop, and then he stopped moving his hands, and the kids were mocking him. Like, this is how crazy all this stuff is.
Yeah, like I feel that sometimes because I talk with my hands too, and some people kind of like get a little taken aback by it, and like I'm like, what is that? What is that? And like I've seen this too before, like in public, like this old couple I knew from my family, my friend's family, and they're like an old couple, and like he's this old Polish guy, and like, you know, he's talking with his hand, like, you know, gesturing, and then this woman, like his wife was like, "Stop talking with your hand." I don't know what that was about. She was really upset that he was talking with his hands, and I'm like, what is that? I'm like, there's nothing wrong with talking with your hands. Like, yeah. I don't understand.
It's a microaggression.
What the hell is a microaggression?
I don't know, but it's
like
something.
Yeah, like what is that?
There's a lot of it happening.
Like, what is that? What is a microaggression? Like,
I don't know.
How do you aggressively, like you know, at a small?
No, it's your interpretation. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be rational.
Yeah,
you could say me looking at you right now is a microaggression. I'm obviously being a white supremacist. over you. I'm using my white privilege in this podcast.
Yeah, like that's and like that, you, but that's what it's coming down to. But that's crazy as people might have gone like, what's going on? Like that's what's happening right now. Like that's what Matt was just saying was an example of what happened in Evergreen College, what's happening in with the Wilfrid Laurier right now with that teacher, and what's happening Upper Law Society. It's all the same thing, right?
Yeah, it's ass backwards.
Yeah, it's almost. I almost feel like we're in the Dark Ages. Like I almost feel like that. It's just like in the Dark Ages, because like in the Dark Ages, everyone was getting sick with the plague. What's the new plague? Cardiovascular disease, syndrome X. That's the plague. That's it's the silent plague. Like people are getting killed off left, right, and centered. Not a disease that's infectious and that can be spread through like germs. It's just based on your infection of convenience.
Dude, I just got an image of V for Vendetta. We were talking about it last time. Yeah. That's what the intro monologue is talking about, how ideas can parasitize people and become powerful through people. That's exactly what it is. It's not that, like you're saying, cardiovascular disease is the issue. It's I always go back to this. It's convenience. I think convenience. I don't know.
It's convenient to be lazy.
I don't know if that's actually the denominator. I don't know if that's reduced. Yeah, but it's close. It's pretty close.
There might be like a layer 2 or maybe 3 more, maybe.
But I think the root of it is maybe not convenience. I think you might reduce it to the inability to take responsibility for oneself, and I mean that's convenient. Jesus Christ on the cross, right? That's accepting the sins. That's accepting the sins of the world. That's accepting your capacity for good and evil. That's accepting your burden. Bearing the cross voluntarily is accepting responsibility. And convenience is, if there's any way that I can not carry this cross, I'm going to take that route. And I promise you will have nothing left of your soul by the time you're done following that path to its end.
Yeah.
You'll be so weak and pitiful and bitter and resentful.
You could have all the things in the world. You could own an island with servants and all those things, but you'll still feel empty. Mm-hmm. You know, and like that's why you can't be chasing for material, right? Because it's just a known fact you're gonna end up feeling empty.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily the material; it's the comfort that's implied, right? Part of the the urge to have material things is that they provide comforts for us, right? We always want a comfier couch. We don't want the temperature to ever be not perfect in our house, right? We never want to experience discomfort. It's
But
really
it goes back to that same idea, just like shit, like combating ideas that conflict is uncomfortable, but that's where you prevail with like better ideas,
right.
But if you're comfortable stuck with the same fucking ideas, where are you going? Right? You're not going anywhere. You're just recycling. You're just trying to reinvent the wheel at that point. But what's the point of reinventing the wheel? Right? It's redundant almost.
Yeah, it reminds me of what we were talking about with parenting, like single. One of the reasons why it's important for there to be 2-parent households is like, if I got this from a guy named Thomas Sotomayor. He's this black guy who basically he's very conservative black guy, and a lot of what he talks about on his YouTube channel is like just black culture and how black culture feeds into itself and becomes this perpetuating force for failure, essentially, and segregation. Yeah. It's not just about any race. He just looks at it fairly objectively, but because he's black, he's allowed to say things that other people aren't. So it's but one of the things he was talking about with single mom households was that if you're, I think I got this from him, but if you're a single mom or a single father, you're a dictator. I don't mean that you're pathological or it's your fault or anything, but if you're the only parent, you are a dictator. You cannot help it. But if you have somebody to work with, like, you were talking about with Tori, you're not a tyrant to your own life or a dictator to your own life, because you have somebody to discuss ideas with and say, am I actually right about this? And the people don't think that's okay now. Like, we don't think it's okay to have somebody else's opinion and to discuss things and be wrong and come to a conclusion that's better than either one could have come up with on their own.
Yep.
And
it's almost like they're getting, because I remember one of the biggest thing about like elementary school was always about how to start your project with brainstorming, and like, how are you supposed to brainstorm if you're supposed to all be saying the same thing? That's not brainstorming.
Yeah.
Right?
Brainstorm and come up with this answer.
Yeah, brainstorm. Exactly. What's that? I don't know what that is. I can't even tell you what that is.
There's a lot of things like that in young school. Like how many things you're supposed to do on your own. Like how many areas. Not that doing things on your own is not an important learning. I think it's a very important aspect of learning. But most of what people do in their day-to-day life is cooperation. But 100%. Most of school is not cooperation. It's always don't cheat, don't ask somebody else for help, figure it out on your own. And I get it. It's important to expose kids to trying to solve a problem on their own with nothing to help. Like, really just use what you have. But then at the same time, if what you have is somebody else, I think we could teach people a little more to use that as a resource, because that's what civilization was created
like
for.
Cheating can be a resource, like as
it can be.
and like
and asking for help can be
and like and even like when you're fighting, like like you can do some cheap shots, but like that's what fighting sometimes is, and like everyone's trying to find a way to hack things, like life hacks, like those are cheats too, like breathing can improve your homeostatic balance. That's a cheat. That's a hack, right? Like you don't have to wait for your body to balance itself out. You can do it right there and then if you decide to, right? So like it's that like the whole cheating aspect. Yeah, there could be like some like things that are against morals, but it's an attribute, and stealth, like that's an attribute that human civilization and race probably had to learn at one point or another. So it's like something important, like and like you don't want to be teaching kids to cheat, but like if there was an opportunity in life where you had to cheat, right? And you've learned how to do it before, wouldn't you be more successful, right? And like I'm a guy who's all about good morals and stuff, but like, sometimes in life you're gonna have to cheat because you're gonna be wanting to fight for the right things, and sometimes it gets ugly and you're gonna have to cheat your way out of it,
Right.
And it's definitely true. And like, it's like, you might as well teach people the reality of it, that you there's gonna be a point in your life where even if you're a good person, there's no such thing as a good person, but if you want to live a good life, and like, no one's taught you to cheat, but you had to cheat at a certain time, you're gonna fail, right? But you're gonna be failing for all the wrong things because you were fighting for the right thing, but you just chose not to do the one wrong thing to make sure you could continue for the right thing, And I think that's why it's like, yeah, you're right. Like, it's like, as much as like school shouldn't teach it, I think it's like something that people should be exposed to, how to cheat, like, because it can help you. It's gonna help you at one point. It's just like like that whole idea. It's just like, if you're doing bad things, just don't get caught, because you're never always going to be a good person, right? You might as well, like, if it's going to work out for you and it's not going to really be like, it's not going to hurt anyone in the process, like, you could do something bad that could in turn be better for all, kind of deal. And I think people have to like see that too, and like, that's a point of view that the lefts won't see.
I think I partially agree with you. But
Yeah,
I
there's
think that is a slippery slope.
Slippery
and
slope.
It takes a very wise person to walk that balance rope.
Yeah, but that's
Because-
the razor's edge, right? If you're present enough, you'll realize how far you're taking your lies.
This
Right.
This is what
This
I was
is
talking
true.
about
Yeah.
when you guys were gone. I was talking about how lying tarnishes your soul, and there's something that always stuck with me. Jordan Peterson was talking about with, if you lie to yourself, how you can't trust yourself if you begin to lie to yourself, and there is a fine line between realizing you're in a situation, which I think is what you're talking about. When you get into a situation where there's only bad decisions, there is no moral decision, and you need to choose the lesser of all evils, then that is something that I think you can apply what you're
Okay.
talking about. But I would say that majority of the time there is the moral option.
Yeah. There is the moral option.
Like, I'm trying to think of a situation where you're in such a bad situation where there's no
Where it's justified to lie.
there's no decision that isn't that doesn't push you
Well, I got.
away from evil, but it's the least furthest from good. I'm trying to think of a situation like,
Well, you're in war, and your guy on your side just got shot in that room, and he's bleeding out, and he's gone. He's all but gone. You know he's gonna die, and another guy on your team comes up, and he asks where that person is, and that was impressive.
Yeah.
But he asks where that guy is, and you say he's in that room, but he's gone. But we need to deal with the issue right now, and he's like, no, I got to get in there. Well, no, he's gone. But he might think in his head that he can still go in there and do something. But you got to lie to him and tell him that he's
no,
already
dead.
gone. He's already
dead.
gone.
Oh yeah.
He's already
That's a good
gone, and
one.
we gotta go. We gotta move on. We gotta move towards this task, or we're gonna be right there beside our friend.
Right. So that is a situation
Where
where
it should be okay. Like, that guy might go on the rest of his life hating you and never understanding that. But in that moment, you can be
Lying.
okay with yourself and say that
Right.
in my conscience, I believe that I made the right decision there.
right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's maybe not.
That's
the
It
right-
could be
That's
it could be a
exactly
hard
it.
choice to live with, but like, it could have been either who already was in a fatal position as opposed to you weren't.
Yeah, like a
Right.
great person to have that debate with right there would be like Jocko.
Jocko Willink.
Jocko Willink. Shout out to that guy. Like, his podcast, I listen to it a ton, and
Yeah.
that would be a guy to have that conversation with.
Yo, Jocko,
one hell of an
I'm getting
interesting
after it.
conversation.
get me on.
Get after it.
Get me on. I can use that Instagram bump too.
I love it. I love it, man. Get after it.
No, I don't want any of that. But I'm not prepared to talk to that guy.
I would love,
I'm
and
not-
I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with that man. That guy could tell you, you could learn some stuff from that guy. He's been there and he's done it to the furthest extent you could think of.
He's a superhero.
For those of you who don't know who we're talking about too, he's a retired Navy SEAL operator. I think they called him like the godfather of Ramadi. He was a huge player in the Iraq War. Mm-hmm. And he has his own podcast that I'm personally a fan of.
So he's retired now, but he goes around and helps people with leadership. He was a commander when he was in the SEALs. So he's an expert decision maker in how to survive under fire. Like he's
under pressure.
Unbelievable his ability to look past human emotion to come to an objective conclusion about something.
Crazy.
And not lose his humanity.
So he's not a psychopath.
Amazing. No, that's the crazy part.
But has the psychopathic ability to make the logical decisions. That's pretty.
No. By definition, he's not a psychopath.
Well, yeah, but like the reason why I say psychopath is because they have like they're able to think so logically under certain situations because they have no
completely null and void of empathy.
Because they have no emotional sort of responses, right?
That's what's so amazing about him. Is
he's able to do that while being humane.
But he doesn't just have like a little bit of humanity left. Like he is also somebody who's full of love.
Oh yeah.
He's so amazing to listen to. And you will not be more motivated. Like, just the way that he can flip a script, man. That's so weird, man. I never realized there was an American flag right there. And as I'm talking about Jocko, I saw the American flag. That's hilarious. Somebody asked him on the podcast. He does these Q&As once in a while.
Yeah.
Where he'll go off Facebook and take questions. And somebody asked him, like, what do you feel when you think of your fallen comrades? Like, how do you not just feel sad all the time? And he was talking about, like, in the beginning, it's tough. But he said, I don't feel sad. I feel happy. Not glad. But he was saying, like, those people knew what they were getting into and they made their sacrifice, and he appreciates that they have a wife and kids at home and their family can no longer spend time with him. There's a wife somewhere who can no longer spend time with her husband. There's a child out there who can no longer spend time with their father. And he, as in Jocko, is still living. And he has the opportunity to be a good husband to his wife.
He's carrying...
Because he's still alive. He has he has the opportunity to be a father to his children because he's still alive. And like,
there's a part of those guys that lives vicariously through him.
That's what I mean. He carries them on still.
When he talks about them too, like Chris Kyle and
he's still he's like a living example of who they were. So he's still there. He's like their living memories of them almost.
Exactly. Yeah, well, that's they're living legends.
Yeah. And he's not just talking about in general. He's talking about people in his troop who he was there when they died. And the way he described it was, he can't think of anything more disrespectful to them than to pity themselves over the fact that they are still alive to experience the suffering that those people are no longer allowed or able to experience. Like, man, to be able to flip your mind like that is just, it's unbelievable. There's so much to learn from that.
That's what one of the things they say, like, you come to like full present moment awareness is when you watch someone die. And I think like maybe he's seen it enough times that like maybe even flipped something in his head that he's like, because he said, like, you know how he said in the beginning, but maybe it happened enough times where he was like, wait a second, no, right?
Yeah, maybe he experienced it because it was such a common...
Yeah, and like maybe he found all of a sudden this calmness while experiencing someone else's death, right? That he was able to start realizing the truth behind what their death meant, as opposed to right?
Well, it's one of those tragic, stark contrasts of existence where
yeah, like where suffering becomes so overwhelming that it no longer becomes suffering.
Well,
yeah, like it's somewhere along those lines.
that went
Like,
over my head.
like you almost like transcend suffering because of because it almost overwhelms you, right? Like it's just like it's like it's so much suffering that you're no longer willing, like you change your mind about it, that it no longer becomes suffering. It's like I don't know, it's like holding on to the hot coal
reason
kind of
with it.
deal. Yeah, it's like if you're gonna be pitting yourself over all these people that's died in front of you, you're holding on to your own suffering. You're holding on to your own hot coal. But maybe after enough times, you just decide to let that coal go, that hot stone, and maybe it was no
Right.
longer really suffering anymore to watch these people die. It's
Well-
maybe more like an honor for them, right? Or
It's also
like,
it's also like the light without the dark concept. Like when you're that close to death on a consistent basis, your spectrum goes so far into the darkness from the middle that simultaneously transcends the light in an equal amount to the opposite side, right? So if you imagine your life is a line your life is a line, if you draw out a line to one side, that represents the darkness. Because you understand that capacity, you will simultaneously expand the light the same distance. So I think that's what happens with a lot of those people is they see so much evil, and that's something that we can't understand. That like when you get into war zones like that,
No, yeah,
or
that's-
places like
you would-
Nazi Germany or
we-
things like that, when you see people who are purely evil, who are dead, and not that they are inherently evil, but they have chosen the path of evil. When you come across people who really think that it is their life purpose to kill infidels because they do not believe in the same religion as you, or when you come across people in the Nazi camps who, after the men would get off trains, they would not just make them do manual labor, but they would make them pick up a 100-pound bag of salt, carry it to the other end of the yard, and then carry it back, just to prove the point that the sole purpose of what they were doing was the pleasure of watching somebody else suffer. They didn't even give those inmates the benefit of completing a task. They wanted to prove the point that they were so hellbound on destroying the fabric of reality that they would create suffering
they would
in
bend-
such a
they would bend
direct,
truth.
explicit manner.
Yeah.
Like, man, I hear the story in my head, but I've never been exposed to
No,
anything like that.
I can't say I have.
You know, like I can't get around this now. Reading about history, like becoming properly educated in history.
feel
I'm
like-
not saying I am.
I feel like I was exposed to something like that whole like doing, just because like I come from a place in the world where for over 50, 60 years they had never really truly had peace between the North and the South, right? And like, and it must influence both societies, right? There must be something in both societies where they have this, where they're still holding this resentment, and like they're still hell-bent on trying to get each other. And so like I feel like because of collective whole, I was able to experience that sort of feeling, because you're telling me about it, I'm like, that sounds a little bit familiar to me, like growing up, like even in my household and stuff like that. And the way we were punished, and like the way that if we were doing something bad, it's like it was hell-bent on teaching us, like, I don't know, it was just like, it was almost authoritative tyrannical destruction, and like it was pointless to almost punish us to that degree, but they took it there, and it was like, and I think it still baffles my mind how that happened. And like I think it probably has to do with the contribution of the North and the South separation, and like that's a generational thing, and that's built over time, and like
You're
so
still experiencing that,
I'm
the
still
temporal tendrils of
it's still like
spread through
it's
time
still
and-
spreading, and like I feel like I experienced some of that, which is really weird, because
But it's-
and
especially nowadays, it's so difficult for people to have that perspective. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's taken a long time for me to even have this little bit of perspective. But, I was out hunting this morning, and, you're sitting out in a tree stand, and it's not particularly cold today, but it's cold. It's winter.
Mm-hmm.
It's around 0. And after a couple hours, you're not moving. You get cold, like bone cold.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't matter how many layers you wear, you just get cold. And I was sitting there, and I was shivering, and a thought had me that I was thinking of the people in the cells in Soviet Russia, some of the stories I've read about how they would just be in the cold all the time, like for years. It's just always cold. They would wake up in the morning and they would have 2 bathroom breaks during the day, one right when they woke up and one in the evening. And if you understand how your bowels work, you don't have to take a shit right when you get up. You have to take a shit a couple hours after you get up. And you didn't get to go back to the bathroom until 8 o'clock at night. So just imagine just that simple thing during the day. And I thought, like, when I was out in the tree stand, like, I am 100% positive that within a short period of time, I will be able to relieve my suffering. Like, no matter how bad this gets, how cold I get right now, it will never be hopeless. Like, I know that I can just go into the car or whatever. And it's completely changed my perspective. And I was sitting out there and I was just, I don't know, I have this weird thing with hunting. I feel like I don't deserve to have a deer present itself to me yet. Like, I really keep telling myself when I get cold or when I get bored, it's like, it's not supposed to be this easy. You have to suffer to reap this reward. And it's weird when you just sit there with the cold and you
just perceive the world, right?
You'd be grateful for it.
You just perceive rather than, and I think that's what's kind of cool about hunting is like, like it's a moment of time where you can be lost in your thought. Some people I guess would be, but it's a moment of time where you can just perceive the world as it is. You just stay there and you're participating with the world for that moment, I think that's what meditation is anyways. It's just you letting go of all your self burdens for the moment and just participating with what already is, not resisting to any of your problems, not resisting to like any of your pain that you have in your body, just yielding and accepting everything for what it already is. Like you can't fight things that already are, right? It would be insane to fight things that already are,
Yeah, and
you can make choices if it's that that goes different ways. Well, I could expand on that.
The
but
interesting part about hunting right now, like in this day and age where we live, is that like the fact that it's a choice to hunt is unbelievably unlikely in terms of human evolution.
Yeah.
Like
it shouldn't.
The fact that we don't have to hunt if we don't want to is unbelievable. And I can't stop thinking about that while I'm out there. I'm sitting there thinking like, what would this be like if I had on my mind that if I didn't shoot an animal, none of us would eat until we get one. Like, what is that like? And that's how most people live. I really think that there's something innate about humans that we don't really know how to function outside of that. Like, I think a lot of the reason why we have problems, we have anxiety and depression is because we are geared towards severe problem solving all of the time. And we don't have any problems to solve, any real tangible problems.
True.
That's why we get complacent and we get lazy.
Yeah.
We make those easy decisions.
Yeah. That's it. And that's why you have to put yourself in the fire.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you have to
you can
get after it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, because there's nowhere else you're gonna learn how to be better than putting yourself under pressure, right? Like, how do you some people are better at that than others, but I think it's something that everyone should be getting themselves exposed to, like how to perform under pressure, how to do things under pressure, because that just means how well are you able to stay to the task even when things start to look like shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can still, because that will determine, like, that's how I go back to that movie Point Break. It's like there's a remake that happened like not too many years ago, and then like, but the whole idea is these people do extreme sports, and like the whole thing is don't break your mentality. Like the moment you break your point, you die during these things, and these guys are doing like snowboarding down mountains, like going surfing in the biggest hurricanes, and like doing those, like, what is it, those fly jumps, fly jump suits,
squirrel suits.
yeah, squirrel
Oh my
suits,
God.
On
yeah.
my
So
bucket list.
yeah, so like so it's just like they're saying that the point you die is the point you break, and that's the whole movie. It's Point Break. It's like don't break your point.
I just watched
It's a great
two people
mentality.
fly
Yeah,
those into a plane.
I did see that
See that
video.
Instagram video?
Yes.
These people fly it into a plane.
Yeah.
While they're,
Oh wow,
Guys
that's
flying in the
incredible.
planes.
go.
Do you see them? Do you see them?
The
There
first
they
guy
are.
hits though. The video starts. The guy misses. He hits the side of the plane and like tumbles
and
he
tries-
redoes
yeah.
it. But yeah, you're right. And,
Yeah, and
it's,
not-
that sounds overwhelming.
But I'm not saying like, you know, you have to get to the point where you can keep your mentality before, like, you know, while staring down a gun or something.
You have
that's
to
what.
start with what you can.
Start
handle.
with what you can handle. Maybe it's your room. Maybe it's starting to clean, and that's going back to Jordan Peterson. But maybe that's in your room. Maybe it's in the way you eat. Maybe you need to self-analyze yourself first. Maybe those are the things you shouldn't break your point with.
Try to take a cold shower every morning.
That's what I feel like that really helps me, because I take cold showers every morning now, and like it's
been
like
so useful.
holy, like it's
Really?
sharpened my mind. Yeah,
I don't
because
know if I could do that. I get up too early. I don't like. I've never even heard of it really. So
yeah, like I do
Please
like
explain.
breathing first though. I do like Wim Hof breathing, so I'll do like a series of like breathing intensely for 2 minutes, and then like not breathing for 40 seconds after fully exhaling, and then do like series of breathing for 2 minutes, and then like exhale fully and don't breathe for like 60 seconds, and then do that again for like 90 seconds. And sometimes I make the 90 seconds, sometimes I don't, and then I'll try to do it like I have the fourth one for like 2.5 minutes, and I never make it. But like all you need is the benefit of not breathing for 90 seconds, and that shuts down like majority of your immune system response and everything, and then it restarts it back up for you. So one thing I've noticed is my allergies, which I used to severely had. Like I used to take so much Reactine. Now I don't even take those. I don't even think about them. Right? Maybe like I think I took it once, like back like a week ago. But I knew why that was. It's because I had a bunch of like carbohydrates, and you know, like I've been having less carbs, and I think my histamine response, my immune system response got jacked up, and then my allergies start to kick in. So yeah, so sometimes allergies is about what you eat too, and like but that would pretty much my allergies has been gone because because I've been kind of trying to reset my immune system every morning, and all that breathing really
the cold also
and yes, and
resets your
and the cold also does it. So like I'm getting a double reset. So like I do all that breathing, my body gets warm from that breathing, right? So now it's prepared for me to go into a cold shower, and I'll just turn on to the coldest shower. Like I'll start with my head, and I'll just dump it into my body, the shower, and I just do my morning shower, and it'll take me like 5-7 minutes.
the breathing changes the pH of your blood, so it actually decreases your pain.
Wow.
Pain sensitivity.
And like I've been doing that to wake up every morning, and I think it's like such a crucial ritual that I built. And like I think it's like if there's anything that can also help success and breed success, it would be something like that too.
Yeah,
It's having some sort of like ritual when you wake up.
That requires like knowing the breathing and things like that. Not a better suggestion, but an alternative to just simply gain the psychological benefit of it is how I do it. Can't do the breathing in the morning, because if I try to breathe when I get up, I just fall asleep again.
yeah, I think that's what I would.
I take a regular shower, and at the end of my regular warm shower,
Well,
I turn it cold for 2 or 3 minutes. And it's less about the actual physical health benefits for me, but it's just like we're talking about. It's a practice of facing something
that you don't want to face.
that you don't want to face. It's difficult. It sucks balls every time.
I don't.
Water never.
Feels good.
I just know.
Ever.
I just know I'm gonna have a good day when I'm like doing the breathing and I'm like thinking about the shower. I'm like, yeah, that'll be no problem. I'm gonna face that bitch. Then I know I'm gonna have a good day. But there's days where my mind's like, oh, the cold showers after this. I don't really want it.
No.
But I still do it every time.
That's more important.
Yeah,
That
that's
right there,
more
that
important.
Mental getting over that.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to.
So-
I'm tired.
So
Yeah,
imagine over the course of 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, when your daily ritual starts with overcoming
task.
a
Whatever it is.
task, a
Whatever it
difficult
is.
task, Every
your
day,
bed.
that's the first thing you do. Imagine that. Imagine what, I don't know what.
I mean, the first thing,
effect that has.
first thing I do is I foam roll or I like lacrosse ball my tightest areas, and that's why I think I really wake up before I do the breathing, because I'm just inflicting pain into myself the moment I wake up, right, and getting all my like tight spots out, and then I start the breathing, and my breathing feels better. It doesn't feel restricted as much, right, and then I think I do. So it's almost like I try to do like a little self care every morning, just so like my body feels good for the whole day, so that I can just carry on and not having to worry about my tightness and tension, and like, because those things you can get by to a certain point with tightness, tension, and inflexibility until it starts to hijack your mind, and you're like, okay, I cannot not stop thinking about that tightness I have in my quad, or tightness I have around my elbow, that tightness I have in the back of my neck. At a certain point, it like overrides your thoughts, right? And that's what you don't want to happen if you have important things to do, or if you have like a schedule to follow, and so I would say like having a morning ritual that will almost create some sort of like synergistic balance for you to be able to do what you're supposed to do for the whole day. I think that's really important to like try to get for, and it doesn't have to be what I'm doing. It can be other things. Some people like doing yoga. Some people like going for a morning run. Some people like, it's just something to help you kind of get going, right? That will help you for the whole day. I think that's what's important. Because like that morning run releases endorphins, right? It feels good, makes you feel good for the whole day, right?
Yeah. I definitely need to find my daily ritual.
Yeah, like
I definitely need to find something that I do, because I mean, I get up 5 o'clock every day except for Wednesdays. So I get up at 4, and then I have 15, 20, 25 minutes at home. Yeah. And then I'm in the car for an hour and 15 minutes, and then I work for 9.5 hours. Yeah, see, I need to find something in the morning that can help me get that task. That cold shower.
Yeah, but it just I purposely wake up earlier than I have to do those things, to make time for those things, and like that means you're sacrificing your night every time, and like it's worth sacrificing your night time.
It's the right sacrifice.
Yeah, it's the right sacrifice, because what hurts about going to sleep early? Nothing. You get better repairment of your body, because your body releases the right like hormones, because that's when it needs to be released, right? Like there's a certain time for like certain things to be released, because we all follow the sun, and when the sun goes up and down, our bodies follow, regardless of whether you want it to or not, right?
Yeah, so you regulate your melatonin and cortisol.
Yeah, like
but that it's not the, like what you said, I have to develop my own ritual. That's important, because it's not you need to take a cold shower every morning. It's you need to. This is something that I've learned about ritual. Like, we have this idea about ritual as being something that's silly, and it's antiquated, and it's not important.
We're better than that now.
The heart, what a ritual is something that's so important that you prioritize it over all other things. And I've started over the last, let's say 3-4 months, every Sunday I go to my dad's and have lunch or dinner or something. And I realized I did this because I realized family rituals are going away. It used to be an Italian thing. Every Sunday you go to Nona's house, right? My family is kind of crumbled after the death of my Nona. Yeah. My aunts and my dad, and I won't get into it, but they don't talk anymore from over bullshit. So I kind of took it upon myself to try to create rituals, right? And I try to get my brother into it as well. And he comes most Sundays, but sometimes he just won't, right? He'll stay home and watch football or whatever. And I try to explain, like, the point of a ritual is that you prioritize it. And that's an important lesson, because you build the habit of doing that. The ritual sends out vibrations into the rest of your life, and you learn the importance of doing something because you know it's important, even though it may not be convenient. So a little thing that I do now, over the last couple times hunting, going in the tree stand, I'm terrified of heights, right? I found this out this year. I'm terrified of heights. So when you go into a tree stand, there's generally, people have a string hanging from the side. You climb up, you attach your bow to it, you climb up and you pull the bow up with the string. I make myself hold my bow in my hand and climb the ladder with one hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's terrifying. Like the stand I was in today is 20 feet. It's nothing. But you're climbing with one hand and it's going through your head like, I can't make a mistake. But the point is I'm appreciating the ritual of doing something difficult because I know it will benefit me. And my fear of heights is just like over 2 times going hunting. It's just going away.
Mind you, like that breathing I do every morning, like some mornings it's fucking hell because the day before I would have like a hard training session and my body would be just so tight that I would foam roll and release my stuff and I would breathe and I just don't get the same effects, but I stick with it still. I don't get the actual benefit of it because of like the current condition, but I still stick with it. And I think that's what's really important. Like it just, even if your ritual doesn't feel like the ritual it was supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
But you still stick with it.
Yeah.
It's that itself is what makes it so much more powerful.
The ritual is the act of going through it, not receiving the short-term benefit.
Yeah, sometimes I get no benefit from like that breathing. It just feels like I just wasted 15 minutes almost, right? And I could have slept in for 15 more minutes, but it still doesn't matter. It wasn't wasted. It had more of an impact than anything.
Mm-hmm. Because that. A year down the road or 2 years down the road or 6 years down the road, you're going to have to make a decision that is important. And because you've practiced just saying, I need to do this, I'm going to do it. I don't care if it's going to work or not. The important thing is I need to do this. I know I need to do this. You've increased that motor pattern or that those synapses that tell you just do it because you know you need to do it.
You increase your likelihood to chase after opportunities pretty much.
Yeah.
And life is all about opportunities. All you have to do is stay humble, humiliated, and stay present until you wait for the right moment and you can make things explode exponentially. I really believe in that.
I really 100% agree with that.
Because some people are all about trying to make opportunities and like, those work too. You're supposed to create opportunities sometimes, but a lot of the times big opportunities come your way not because you made them but because you saw it, right?
Well, how did you dodge going to Trillium College for massage therapy?
Just staying present and just kind of just like talking to you and just
within 3 days of me looking into going to massage therapy school, I was in massage therapy school. So on Sunday I looked into schools. I thought, I think I'm going to do this. Sorry. On Saturday, I had talked to Jimmy. Saturday or Friday, talked to Jimmy and realized he wanted to go to massage therapy school. I'd kind of been thinking about it. And he was saying he was looking into Trillium. And he said, on Tuesday, I'm going to go for an interview.
Or like a tour.
And I said, okay, I'll go with you. Sunday, I messaged my cousin's fiance who runs the student clinic. She supervises the student clinic, and I asked her advice. I didn't know that she supervised at the school. I just knew she was a massage therapist, and she said, well, I supervise at the school. From what I've heard, Trillium sucks balls, Mohawk sucks balls, all that. All the other schools suck, pretty much.
Apparently they're still following old curriculum.
Yeah,
like
because
from 20 years ago.
They're not private colleges. They follow curriculum, right? Mm-hmm. They're behind. And so she said, I'll ask if you guys can get into the program. Like, it's so unlikely. We're a month late into an accelerated program. So the full-time program is 22 months. We're getting into a 12-month program with 11 months left to go.
It's not even a 12-month program. It's like an 11-month program.
Yeah. And you're supposed to have a degree to get in.
Yeah, and I don't even have a degree.
But he knows the content. Like, how unlikely was it that you actually ended up where you are, and how beneficial was it?
And like, so all these things, it's like, is it coincidence or is it not a coincidence? Is it the universe lining up for you to seize an opportunity, or is it a coincidence? I think it's just seizing opportunities. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's what that was.
Hard work pays off.
What is the old man saying, The Alchemist, about the universe?
Oh, right. If the whole universe will conspire for you, if you really, really, really want something, if you really desire something, the whole universe will conspire it for you. and it's like a beginner's luck.
It's talking about following your personal
legend. And like, you know what, I feel like ever since that book I tried to follow a personal legend, and like the book is right, like it only gets harder. It feels like my dream and my goals are like, at first it was so exciting and fresh, and now it's just like me trying to fight and grind to hold on to my dreams. And like I knew it's gonna be like this, it just only gets uglier, it only gets harder, right? And like I have to accept that, and I have to understand, like, and you know, and like there I also still have fears, like I know when I have to graduate, I have to start trying to open my own practice with, you know, with people that I want to be around, and like all that's overwhelming. But at the same time, it's like it's absolutely normal to feel that way. Everyone feels that way, right? And
Absolutely.
but it's just like I'm like, and because everybody feels that way, not everyone wants to chase their dreams and understand their dreams. But I really want to. I want to see where that takes me. You know, I want to see on the other side of what following, like just what, because like what, like I always tell Matt, I'm like, what else are you gonna do if you're not going to follow your dreams?
Somebody else's dreams?
Yeah,
that's what
my
you're going to end
favorite
up
thing
doing.
that Jordan Peterson says. What else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Be less than you could be.
Exactly.
Why would you do that?
Why would you? Why would you want to feel weak?
It's not the easy road.
Yeah,
but
it's not.
It's the only path worth following. It's the only aim that's true.
Yeah, like it's the only thing that you know you're going to, when you die, you know you did something right. Like you followed your calling. You followed what was something inside of you told you to just follow. You know?
And it's not just as simple as following your bliss. It's following your bliss and accepting the necessary sacrifices that will need to be made in order to attain a meaningful existence.
Yeah. And like, you know, and that's why you go through a series of like the Phoenix kind of thing, where like you have to go through, you have to die before you die.
Right.
Like multiple times in life.
The deadwood. I love the analogy of the deadwood of the forest, because what happens in a forest is it builds up dead wood on the ground, right? And forest fires will spontaneously combust the dead wood of the forest. The dead wood will burn off and the forest will regrow. But this is an interesting analogy to trying to sheltering kids. What we are doing, literally and metaphorically, is putting out the forest fires to try to protect the forest. But what happens is that deadwood builds and builds and builds and builds, and the deadwood never builds off. So your old ideas never get thrown out. You keep them, you hold on to them, you hold on to them, and eventually what happens is there's so much deadwood that the forest suffocates and it dies. So
for our sake, I really hope we don't get to that point.
You need to burn off the deadwood.
Yeah, you need to be like the phoenix, like, you know, like it lives to a certain point and then it dies and it's ashes and then it grows again, right? And it's born again. And that's the whole analogy of like what, you know, like going back to the Bible, like what Jesus did. Like he died and he comes back to life, and he understands more than he did before, right? And so that's the idea, is like, we're not telling people to die literally, like don't kill yourself,
right.
But you know, if you probably do come back from it, you'll be probably a changed person, right. You know, we probably all know that, but you don't have to actually physically die. You can mentally kill off all your attachments, right. You know, whatever you know, and then you can actually feel like you died because you let everything that you know go, and then now you're this different person. And you have a whole new layer of understanding because you transcended everything that you knew, and you're no longer attached to those things, but you still know those things, but you're no longer attached to them. So you're in a whole different layer of it, right? And you're allowing new things to be attached to, which you will eventually have to kill off again. And then you'll have a new attack. And eventually, at one point, it'll be only about letting things go in our lives, because we're no longer going to be expending. We're going to be in our, who knows, when you're like in your 60s, you're not going to try to still grow a business. You're going to, at that point, you're trying to let things go. You're simplifying life. Your body is letting go anyways at that point, right? You're slowly physically deteriorating, you know. So it's just like in different parts of your life, you have to be practicing different things. But like the first thing, like to start getting there, is start to practice dying before you really die, right? And if learning to let go.
If you're confused at what that is, the universe has an interesting, twisted way of identifying it. And this is the story of King David.
Not sure.
No. King Arthur. This is the story of King Arthur. Is the kings are sitting at the round table. The knights are sitting at the round table. They go out to find the Holy Grail. Yeah. They come upon a forest. Each knight enters the forest at the place that seems darkest to them. So they enter the forest at the same place metaphorically, but physically different places. So the idea is the thing that you need most is in the place you least want to look for it. So the thing that you're holding on to that needs to be burned off is the thing that you least want to part with. So if you have something in your daily life that you are saying, okay, listen, I can do this, but I can't get rid of this thing I do need. Really consider what that thing is. Because the chances are, or the likelihood that is the thing that you need to part with in order to burn and regrow from the ashes is nearly 100%.
And sometimes it doesn't even need to be like, you can sometimes be friends.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, how about
Toxic
Sometimes
relationships.
it can be people, that you need to actually let go, which could be so hard. And that's why, like, you hear about, like, it's like this always inside, why do you go back to that person if they hurt you so much? It's just like they're so blind to like what's on the other side, right? And like like people hold on to their own hot coals all the time.
I would love some hot coals. By the way, we're all freezing our dicks.
I was kind of
wearing
like shivering.
shorts.
Yeah, Tyler's wearing shorts.
I'm wearing flip flops. We're out in the garage, the studio,
and I think we did a good time on it.
They were 210.
210. So
we can't have the fire on in here during the podcast because you can hear the crackling. So I didn't warm this place up enough beforehand, so it's cold. But
I think we got a lot of content.
When we all realized it was cold was right when we were talking about like taking on adversity. I could tell, I saw Jimmy and Tyler put their hoods up.
Yeah,
I knew that nobody was going to complain about being cold because it would be too hypocritical.
Well, it's even when I had to go to the washroom too. I didn't want to.
Yeah,
stop
Tyler
'cause we were
was
in such an intense conversation.
Yeah, it's
and
good.
But yeah, man,
I think we covered a lot.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a great
So
experience.
do
That was
you
a good
now
podcast.
think that your nerves were unjustified?
Absolutely. It's just conversation. I get nervous. I get nervous about tons of stuff though.
Yeah.
Is it
normal.
Do you find it's less? Do you feel less weird not wearing headphones?
I feel less
like it's more
weird.
comfortable?
Yeah, it's less weird not wearing headphones.
I'm the only one wearing headphones just so I can monitor the volume. I really hope that our volume came out fine. It sounds good. Yours is a little more crisp. Ours is a little bit more echoey because it's not direct. But man, we're on a budget. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was good.
Tyler,
man, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, guys. I
I
appreciate the opportunity. I love it. I would definitely love to come back and hopefully bring a belt.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It would be awesome.
That'd be
Rumor alert.
Yeah,
Can we say it yet? Not yet.
I might have the opportunity to fight for the interim New York State
lightweight
title.
That'd be great.
So we're just waiting for the official, but things are looking good.
Nice.
Hopefully that's the case, and hopefully, Matt's agreed to be part of the corner team.
Yeah, as long as I'm welcome from the other coaches. I'm working with Tyler and, like we were saying, in movement stuff, so I would like to do that.
Yeah, I would love to have you. I think it would be a great.
I appreciate it, man. It's an honor.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we bring home that belt.
Let's do it.
That's super exciting. Exciting, yeah. Super exciting for both of you guys.
Man, life's looking up for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Keep going.
And like the best thing, like I feel like often people don't practice celebrating other people's success, but it's so important to celebrate other people's success and realize that they're going where they want to go.
Yeah.
It's so nice to see when someone says, "This is what I want to do," and you can see them getting there.
Yeah.
If anything, it should motivate you further. It should make you go like, oh, someone's going to the right direction. I need to do the same thing.
If you find yourself feeling resentful of other people succeeding,
it
is 100% indicative that you are not doing what you think you should be doing with your life. 100%.
And that people that are feeling that way, just go out and do it. You want to be successful, think about the thing that you want to be successful in, go out and do it.
Get after it.
Try.
Yeah, and
fail.
And
then
try and fail
again.
and start with the small things always. Start
Set-
with things that you can conquer and you feel like you can be successful with.
Set your big goal, set the small goals. Start with, I listened to it, completely going off the subject here, but I listened to a guy when we were talking about like starting your small task. I listened to a Navy SEAL guy about why they make people in the teams make your bed every day.
Is that the guy giving the speech about being in the water for like 8
Yes.
years?
Yes, and like it comes back to that, like once you can complete that task, like then you can do those other things. So once you have that big goal and you can set up your small goals, once you get that first small goal done, then you feel good about it and you want to get that second goal. You get that second goal, number 3's coming. And then eventually over the time, months, years, I mean, you get to that goal and you can see yourself going and moving towards it along the way. And that's a big thing.
Yeah. I promise you it's more rewarding than laying around watching Netflix. I promise you.
Because here's also the other thing. It's like Netflix is never going to leave. All right?
It's
Netflix is always going to be there.
Yeah.
So why are you going to stick around for something that's always going to be there against something that's fleeting?
5K run, 25 minutes. Get after it. Go and run.
Like opportunities are always fleeting. Why don't you chase something that's fleeting? It's so much more exciting to chase something that you can't sometimes have. There's something that you can always have. Something that's always going to be there. It's boring, right? It gets boring after a while, you know? Like unless you're someone who doesn't, some people might not find that boring. And, that's, I don't want to say that's reasonable and that's like okay because then you're just turning your cheek to the other side, really, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
that was solid.
Yeah, that was solid.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for coming.
Second guest. That's number 7.
Yeah.
Free to offend. So go fuck yourself.